For better or worse, Nagato was always gifted in the ability department. Being a descendant of the Uzumaki clan not only gave him access to vast reserves of chakra necessary to wield the rarest of the three great dojutsu, the rinnegan, but also the blood connection by being descended from the Sage of the Six Paths, who was the originator of the rinnegan in the shinobi world. The rinnegan grants the user enough abilities to keep us here all day, and one of those abilities is to be able to quickly master other abilities. In the interest of saving time, we will keep it to the most prominent and the most significant abilities. As with most special eyes in Naruto, the rinnegan gives the user supervision, the ability to just see better. They see barriers that are meant to be invisible, as well as the pathways of chakra in the body and in the world at large. It also grants the user the ability to use all 5 chakra natures. For context, most ninja can only really access 1 or 2. We see some specific ninja that are considered very skilled that are able to use like 3, and one example of someone who's just able to use 4 via their Kekka Genkai. So the rinnegan is unique in that it gives you the ability to use all 5. Perhaps its most significant ability is its access to what's called the 6 paths, and Nagato used these to create the 6 paths of pain in particular. Now, one skill the rinnegan does not give you is the ability to count, because there's actually 7 paths that we're going to go over. So let's break down each of them. First and foremost, we have the Deva path. This one is the one that was channeled through the corpse of Yahiko. It is also the main body and the face, if you will, of pain. Now, the abilities of the Deva path are best described as gravity-esque. He can use attractive forces to pull objects towards him, and repulsive forces to push them away. And it grants him the control to be able to affect large-scale areas or very small down to a small object. We see him use it on opponents to draw them towards him or weapons that him or another one of the paths is wielding. In addition, it does give him the ability to straight up levitate. But perhaps more dramatically is his technique known as Chibaku Tensei, which creates a gravitational singularity. This singularity pulls things towards it, and it can be used to hold on to and crush opponents. In fact, this is the technique that is said to have been used by the Sage of the Six Paths when the moon was created in the shinobi world. Next up is the animal path. Now, we actually get 2 different faces for the animal path because the first one that we see is destroyed in the fight with Jiraiya. The ability of this path is best summed up as the ability to summon animals. Animals like this chameleon here are large scale in nature, and there's various others that are summoned via this path. We see large birds, crabs, this multi-headed dog, and even a large rhino. This path can also be used to summon people, and Pain uses it to summon his other bodies to locations by first sending the animal path out, and even allies like Conan can be summoned via this animal path. The animals themselves either aren't alive or aren't autonomous beings, as they all have the rinnegan, and they all have black chakra receivers embedded in their flesh as well. They can also be resummoned even if they are killed. Now, the human path is a bit more specialized. Its functions are a bit more tactical based rather than combat based, as it's used to pull out the souls of people, read their minds, and extract intel from them. A person whose soul is extracted via this technique does not survive to tell the tale, but it's rather slow acting and can only apparently be used on one target at a time. Pain appears to value this path the least, leveraging it to jump in front of attacks and kind of take the hits for more important paths that are more useful during combat situations. So using him as a human shield, if you will. The souls taken via this path can also be stored in the King of Hell, which actually gets into the next path. The Naraka path is the one that best utilizes the King of Hell. The Naraka path summons it and it sprouts from the ground, where it can be used as kind of a lie detector of sorts, where you present it beings you're interrogating, and if they are telling the truth, they escape with their lives, and if not, the King of Hell will grab onto the victim's tongue. As unpleasant as this sounds, at the very least it won't last very long, as when the King of Hell has finished extracting them, it ends your life. The King of Hell is also useful as a healer for all of the bodies and paths of pain. The King of Hell is summoned by the Naraka path, which consumes the bodies, and then those bodies come back out undamaged. This can also be used as another form of transportation, having them enter the King of Hell, and then the Naraka path resummon it somewhere else, making the Naraka path one of the more versatile paths. Now, the Preta path is a defensive form that's used to absorb chakra and ninjutsu, which is made of chakra. Here is the Preta path absorbing one of Jiraiya's large-scale Razengans. The Preta path can also absorb Senjutsu, or Sage Chakra, which is made from nature energy mixed with a ninja's chakra. We learn from Naruto's training that if you have too much nature energy in your body, you will turn into a toad statue, and so the Preta path is vulnerable to this exact thing happening to it, especially since it's not trained in balancing those energies. Perhaps the most combative path is the Asura path. It can augment its body with extra limbs, weapons, and all kinds of other dangerous mechanisms. In this image you can see its kind of serrated bladed tail, missiles, and whatever this is. The body used for the Asura path even had its own considerable amount of strength, being dangerous even with just basic taijutsu, augmenting those attacks with mechanical enhancements. The final path is the one that was not channeled into another body and was used by Nagato's original body only. It is called the Outer Path, and its domain is the concept of life and death itself. It was this path that allowed Nagato to summon the Gedomazo, as well as implant the chakra receivers in himself, and provide him with more receivers to implant into the corpses that would become the Paths of Pain. Everything with these receivers can be controlled remotely by Nagato, and it also transmits information back to him. He can in fact see through the eyes of each body of the Paths of Pain. This gives him a network of sorts to operate in a wide area while he keeps his immobile and frail body out of harm's way. He can also use the Gedomazo that was summoned when he first tapped into the Outer Path to store the souls of recently departed folk. Combining that capability with the King of Hell and the ability to actually take in and repair their physical bodies, he's able to use a technique known as Rinne Rebirth, where he can bring people back to life at the cost of his own. Finally, I want to add that he can use all of these paths in his own body. The fact that he became immobile after fighting with Hanzo and was frail from all of the overuse of these techniques is what required him to use a gaggle of corpses instead. Thanks to those of you who stuck around. As you can see, there was a lot to go over, and we still have more yet as we cover in the next sections his role in the story of Naruto.